My name is Matt Stussman, and my sport is para archery.
Hi, my name is Eric Bennett, and I also shoot a bow.
World champion. World champion. One thing that is amazing about archery is that literally anybody, for the most part, literally anybody can shoot a bow, right? So if you're at home or if you just have any disability and you're thinking about getting into sport, archery doesn't stereotype. Where there's a will, there's a way. And so if you're looking at wanting to have some fun, one of the ways of doing that would be joining up with the US Para team.
Yeah, get involved in archery. You can shoot archery anywhere in your local community and in your local state. Big tournaments. There's lots of places where you can shoot, and then if you're good enough and you work hard enough, you can be on the para team. In general, classification is a way of assuring that athletes meet certain disability criteria so that we're competing against each other in a fair way. And so there's obviously lots of different disabilities. So a lot of athletes can participate in archery, from severely disabled people to maybe someone that has a minor injury or something like that. So because of that, there has to be rules in place to make sure that everyone that is competing at an elite level for the para games meets a certain criteria. So there's a classification process just assures that you're going to be shooting in the right division.
Hi, my name is Megan Tierney. I am a national classifier and a national judge for USA Archery, and I am an international judge and an international classifier for World Archery. So classification is the process for para archers to level the playing field. So I do an evaluation on an archer and decide whether they're going to be able to use a wheelchair, if they're going to be standing, or somewhere in between. And it's in order to make it fair, so archers with one impairment shoot against archers with similar type impairments. The different categories in para archery are W1. They're our most impaired archers. They're the ones that you'll find in a wheelchair. They usually have involvement in both their legs, one of their arms, and their trunk. Our W2 archers are in a wheelchair, and our standing archers are standing up, or they could be sitting on a stool, and the W2 archers and the standing archers both compete in the same open division. The eligible impairments that are recognized by the International Paralympic Committee are loss of range of motion, loss of muscle power, loss of limb or a limb deficiency, ataxia, hypertonia, and also for the visually impaired. So if you want to be classified, you have to fill out a medical intake form. Your physician has to fill that out, as well as a consent form, and you can get those forms on the World Archery website under the para section. And then once they're filled out, you send them into USA Archery at least 2 weeks prior to the event for classification. And then you will come to the event and an evaluation will be done. During the classification, you can expect to come in and you'll speak a little bit with one or two classifiers, one classifier if it's national, or two classifiers if it's international. And then they will do a physical exam depending on your impairment. And then after the physical exam is done, that's when they decide which division you'll be shooting in, either as a W1, a W2, or a standing archer. So what to expect during an examination or a classification is you come in, and depending on your impairment is what kind of evaluation we will do. Some people have decreased range of motion, so actually I'll do a range of motion exam. Some people have decreased muscle strength due to their impairment, and so I'll do manual muscle testing. And some people have abnormal muscle tone, so I'll be checking on how much spasticity that they have and how it affects how they're shooting. And some people have a combination of all three, so I have to decide as a classifier which one best represents what this athlete is. So it could be any of those three things. Some athletes come in and they automatically classify if they are missing a limb or if they are a permanent spinal cord injury. But other people sometimes have a review status, and 2 years later they need to go through the classification process again because they might have changed. And again, we're trying to keep the level playing field. And if someone has gotten stronger because they're training, that's great. They might now move into standing. So, or they might, if they have a type of impairment that progresses along, they might now become a W2 when they were a standing archer. Another thing that a classifier does is we will watch you shoot, and to make sure that you don't need more equipment or actually less equipment. So part of our evaluation process is called field testing. We watch you shoot, and we also help the judges with the equipment inspection. If they have any questions on whether someone's allowed to have a strap or someone's allowed to use a certain kind of release, we can help with that. Some of the impairments that the International Paralympic Committee does not allow us to classify people for are things like post-traumatic stress disorder, conversion disorder, or traumatic brain injury if there are not physical symptoms associated with traumatic brain injury. So some people don't reach the minimal amount of points in order to shoot as a para archer. So we do have non-eligible division, but I'm allowed to let you use different types of equipment, whether it be a release or if you can use a stool. USA Archery has a stool policy that if you have a medical condition that doesn't allow you to stand, or it's difficult for you to stand for a whole tournament, you are allowed to use a stool, but it does need to fit within the prescribed 60 by 80 centimeters when you're shooting, including the archer sitting. So that's a nice way for people to participate, even though they don't classify as a para archer. However, there are other organizations like the Warrior Games, the Endeavor Games, that allow people to shoot with diagnoses or impairments such as PTSD and traumatic brain injury or conversion disorder. So there are many other avenues to look into. Or you can shoot with USA Archery as an able-bodied archer and maybe have a piece of equipment if you don't reach the minimal number of points that you need in order to classify as a para archer.